loves, I'm Cinder Page, and I'm a model, and I'm going to tell you how nude modeling saved my life. Before I start, I do want to give a trigger warning that this video might get a little heavy and it might be hard for some people, specifically like self-harm, suicide warnings. That's what I'd like to share. But it's a video that I have been wanting to make for a while because I wanted to share my story with you. This is about how nude modeling saved my life, and I feel like that's an important story to share because nude modeling and sex work in general have had stigmas tied to them forever, and even to this day people still have a lot of negative things to say about it, and I feel like don't really see all situations clearly. So I want to explain my story, but I also want to tie it into how maybe my story can help you. Even if you're not a nude model, I think some of the things I learned could help you as well, so I do want to share my story with you. Also, I'd like to add that I am not a healthcare professional. I'm not a therapist, so if you need to talk to a therapist about anything, please do that. Refer to the suicide hotline if you need to, and take care of yourself. But this is just my experience, so I'm going to say it honestly and blatantly. If any of it is incorrect or not accurate, like psychologically, I'm so sorry, but it's the truth, so I'm going to share it. In sharing this video, I'm going to explain to you how nude modeling saved my life, but I also want to explain how I got to a point to where my life needed saving, because I feel like that is a really important part of the story as well, and there's definitely some hard things that led to it. As I film this, it's not going to be scripted. I'm just going to talk to you, tell you my story, so if I flub my words or mess up, I'm so sorry. I'm not going to film it a bunch of times to make it perfect. I just want to give you my authentic story as if we're just sitting and talking and I was telling you face to face. So I am 32 years old, and I've been modeling for 2 or 3 years now, nude modeling, so this story really impacted me a few years ago, but it was really important, and I was, 29 or 30, I think, when all of this happened to me. So I was like at the end of my 20s and something life-changing happened to me. So I think that's important to know, because there's been times throughout my 20s when I've been like 22, 23, 25 where I felt so bad and so low and didn't have a way to break out of cycles, and then years later I finally did. So if you're in a place where you're feeling like you can't break out of a cycle or things are really rough, just know that you can, because I did. And I know 29 or 30 is not super old, but it's older than like you know, you could go through a lot of hard stuff in your 20s. It's not like you were just born. Like, you've been around for a little bit by that point, right? And you've gone through some hard things. Most people have. And yeah, you can still learn. So if you think things are too hard, I believe they do get better. And I know you hear that all the time, and it's like almost a cliche. But instead of just saying those words to you, I'm going to tell you some things that I think could actually make it better. Alright, so here's the beginning of the story. Years and years ago, I was a manager for a corporation, and I was like a local manager for a store. And I absolutely loved it. I loved my pay, I loved my benefits, I loved my job, I loved the hours I worked, I loved the company. I was really happy. I had been in a long distance relationship for like a year and a half. And the company I worked for is not worldwide. They're in the United States, they're a national company, and they're not in every town. So the person I was dating lived a few hours away, and we had been long distance dating for a while and decided we didn't want a long distance date anymore. So we discussed it, and the decision that was made is that I would leave my company and move to where they were, instead of them moving to me, because they were in a bigger area. They were up in Washington outside of Seattle. They were also in a band, and Seattle is a good music scene. So even though I loved my job, I was a manager, and I was a really good manager. I actually had the top performing store one year, so I was like at the top of the game. So in my mind, I could quit and find a job as a manager for another company easier than they could move to like a small town and be a musician. It made sense to me at the time, and it still does. And a lot of times people think like follow the money. Like, people say that, like, go if one partner makes more money, go to where that partner has the money. I don't believe in that. I feel it's more like following dreams, and they were following their dream, so I felt like I could move and they could still do their dream. So I quit my job and I moved, and I got a job doing insurance, which I had done before. And I'm pretty good at it, but it's really, really boring. And I don't know how else to say it. It's like, I can do it, but it's boring. So I went from one of my dream jobs to a job I was just bored at. Now, the kind of start of everything was really me leaving this job, because I kept trying to get other jobs, and I could not get another manager job. And I'm going to be real with you, to this day, I still do not have a manager job. Like, I'm a supervisor on my other job besides modeling. I do supervise, but I'm not a manager and I do not have a store. And to this day, I've not been able to get that job, which is wild to me. I even applied at competitors for the same position I had, and to this day, never heard back from them. So I was the best in this industry. I was the best at one company. Like, they had their top person apply at a competitor, and the competitor didn't even get back to them. So that was really hard, and it kind of started me down a downward spiral of depression because I was not happy in my work life, and I had left my job, which was something that had brought me a lot of safety and security for years, 4 years. And I had left that safety and security and had a lot less money, and nobody would hire me. And that was the start of the story. If you've never tuned into my channel before, I am a little bit of a fast talker. I try to talk slowly, or like more slowly for YouTube, but sometimes it doesn't happen. So if I'm too fast of a speaker, I'm so sorry, but I'm doing my best. So here I am in Washington with my partner that I'd been with for a couple years and left my job. So me and my partner, my boyfriend at the time, it was the first time we lived together, even though we had been dating for a while, and things kind of started unraveling with us. I think a big part of my depression and not having the job I like led to it. And then when I started insurance, it was a desk job, so I started gaining weight, which I was not happy with. And it's okay if you gain weight, by the way, but sometimes people aren't strong enough to deal with the emotional labor attached to gaining weight because our society tells us that we need to be skinny. So nowadays, I'm like way happier with my body, but that was like personal growth and it took me a little while to get there. But at the time, gaining weight, I didn't hate my job. I was kind of neutral on it. I went from a fulfilling job to a neutral job. So I had a neutral job. It was just there. It was just a job. And I was gaining weight, and I was sad that I had left this other company. So that started driving a wedge kind of between the two of us, and some time went on, and I was there for about a year, and my boyfriend ended up breaking up with me. So this was really hard for me because I was already sad that I had left my job, and then the person I had left my job for broke up with me. Now, looking back, it was good we broke up. We weren't the right match. Like, we dated for a couple years, and I think the couple years we were together were good for us. Like, I feel like we grew a lot, and like, it was good for each of us. And now him and I are still friends, and I feel like where we're at in life, like, part of the reason we're each in the place we're at is because we had dated for a couple years. Like, being involved with all of his artistic friends kind of led me to becoming a suicide girl and doing nude modeling in the first place. I got to see people living a life where they were doing the things that made them feel really fulfilled and they were artistic. So that kind of inspired me. And I would like to think he got something out of dating me too. I don't know. You can ask him. But him and I are friends now. But when he was breaking up with me, it was really sad and devastating. I was already kind of sad. And then we were breaking up, and that was hard. He dated somebody almost immediately, and that was really, really hard for me too. So I was getting a little depressed. And then a couple things were happening at the same time. So I'll tell you those two things. So one is that my boyfriend that I lived with said he wouldn't move out until I found a roommate. Well, I found a roommate on Craigslist and met her, and she's really nice, like a really nice girl. And I still think she's a pretty nice girl, but she's quite young. I think she was 20 or 21, and she was moving out of her grandparents' house to live with me, and it was gonna be the first time living on her own. And long story short, it did not go great for a couple different reasons. But she ended up leaving, and I had like 9 days to find another roommate, or I had to leave my apartment because my income was not enough for me to get the apartment on my own. So my housing situation became unstable. At the same time, quickly after me and my ex-boyfriend broke up, I met somebody else that I started dating and fell madly in love with. Probably the most in love with that I've ever, out of anybody I've ever dated. So I was going through like this housing struggle, and then I don't think I was quite healed from my last boyfriend when I fell in love with this other guy. Like, I wasn't in love with my old boyfriend anymore. Just the leaving of my job and everything that went down, I wasn't quite healed from, and I started falling in love with a new person. And I think that you gotta, if you're gonna, anytime you get in a romantic situation, you gotta be healthy and in a good place, otherwise it's going to be hard. So I was working out my life situation, I was working out my housing situation. I ended up moving in with a couple of friends, and I was really tight financially from moving, and I I actually left the insurance job for a different job that I made less money at, but it made me happier. And at this point, remember, through all of this, I hadn't nude modeled yet, right? I was not a model. I did not do online work. So I had just this one job that I made less money at, but I did like more. But I lost my boyfriend, I lost my apartment, and I was making less money. From my apartment, I had put down a $1,600 deposit when I moved to Washington. And that was because I have a dog, and also because I was switching careers. So since I didn't have employment verification, since I left my last job, I had to put down extra money. And my ex-boyfriend put down a little of it too. But this was right around the time of one of my birthdays, and it was before COVID. Remember, this was years ago. So I was gonna go on a road trip with a couple of my friends, and I was so excited, and I thought it was gonna be so great. It was actually my 30th birthday, by the way. So I was gonna use my return deposit from my apartment to go on a road trip. And, well, you know, apartments need to clean the carpet and do a little cleaning, so you usually lose a little money, but I've always gotten almost all my money back, always, because I take good care of apartments. Well, come to find out, this apartment gave me back $65 and kept the rest of it. So out of $1,600, I got $65, and I was already, like, really low on money, and I really needed that money. And I was upset, and I honestly think I should have fought it and maybe brought them to court, because I think that they just took my money and renovated the apartment. I didn't have any damage done to it, but I was kind of at that point so depressed. I didn't have like the mental space and energy to try to fight a landlord while I was depressed. So I lost that money, and then my relationship with the person that I was madly in love with started to unravel. And when I say I was madly in love with this person, like I loved them like a lot. You know, there's various types of love, and you meet people, and you love people different levels of love throughout your life. This person, I don't know, I just loved a lot. Like when you think of, okay, I got tissue. We're just gonna roll through, okay? Before I filmed this, I filmed a video about becoming a suicide girl, and I'm really glad I filmed that one first, because I didn't know I was going to get emotional in this one. So in life, you hear about great love stories, and you might hear about them and be like, oh, I want to love like that. Well, on my side of the love, that's what it was like for me. It was a big love. Things between us started crumbling, and it was really hard and stressful. And we were still dating, but I had lost weight. I had lost weight from being doing insurance, and I'd actually gotten very skinny, probably because I was kind of depressed with everything going on. And I don't know, I just felt like, basically, long story short, I got to a point where I was suicidal. Not specifically just from the relationship ending with the person I loved. I think that I wasn't in a healthy mental space to be in love with somebody that much. It's intense. You have to be healthy. Same thing, like, I'm not a parent, but I can imagine if you have a baby and you love them so, so much, but you are not in a healthy mental space, your love could not be good for that baby because you're not healthy. I think that's what my relationship was like. I wasn't healthy, and I was definitely not equipped to handle another breakup. So a breakup from a long-term boyfriend that I moved for, and now, I wasn't even broken up with this person at this point when I started modeling, but it was unraveling at the point. So we were unraveling, and I got to the point where I was like, I felt like in life I had kept going through cycles. Good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. And it was really bad right now, and I was like, you know what? I don't think I have the energy for it to become good again and then go bad again. Like, I can't. I felt like life was a cycle, and I couldn't keep up with the cycle, and I became suicidal. I'm not suicidal anymore, and nor have I been since then. And there's been a few times in my life I have been. And I think for myself, I fixed it. And that's what I want to kind of talk to you about today. But real quick on mental health, I actually, doesn't have to do with the story, but I'm just going to insert in this video because it ties along with the story. I actually went to the emergency room because I could not even get out of bed. I was so anxious, and my dog is making noise. If you hear my dog make noise, I'm so sorry. I was so anxious, and yeah, I was just feeling suicidal. So I actually went to the emergency. Well, no, I tried to go to urgent care to get help. Like, I don't know what help I needed, and the urgent care said they could not help me for being suicidal. They said I have to go to the emergency room. Now, this was in Washington. So urgent care couldn't help me, so I went to the emergency room, and my ex-boyfriend, the first one that I had moved for, actually came and sat with me all day. Like I said, him and I are friends, and it was so sweet. And the emergency room did nothing. There was a social worker I had to wait like 6 hours to see, and she basically accused me of trying to get drugs from her. Now, I don't use any drugs at all, or I never have. And I don't even know what drugs she would be thinking I would be trying to get. Like, I don't even know. That's how uninformed I am. She basically accused me of trying to get drugs from her, and I left. And then I went to a card reader and got my tarot card read, and I cried with the palm reader, or excuse me, the tarot card reader, and that was more therapeutic than the whole emergency room. So, long story short, I didn't get medical help, but I did try. So it's a kind of sad, hard story, right? Well, I accidentally fixed it, and how I fixed it was by nude modeling. So when I was still with the last person I dated, the person I was madly in love with, at that point I had gotten quite thin, and I think mostly from depression, and I had also gone vegan around that time, and I lost a lot of weight going vegan. I've since then gained a lot of it back because now I know how to make good vegan food, but I lost a lot of weight, and I think I was depressed, and since I was thinner, I thought, you know what, I want to try becoming a suicide girl. Because I liked the size of my body. Now, you could become a suicide girl any size. I wasn't as body positive back then, and I felt like I needed to be thin. So we submitted a hopeful set to Suicide Girls. It got accepted, and then I started my own Instagram, and I started Patreon, and started doing my own photos on the side and selling them, and I grew a little fan base. And that saved my life. And this is where I want to tie in the lesson to you. So I believed it saved my life because my work life wasn't good, my love life wasn't good. By that point, my body had gotten better, but my home situation wasn't that stable, so a lot of areas of my life were rough, and doing nude modeling was this area of my life that was separate from all of that I had control over and that I loved, and it made me feel fulfilled and inspired and artistic. And even with all this stuff going on, I had this other thing that was like constant and that I loved and made me happy. So it didn't matter as much that my relationship was crumbling or that I didn't make so much money at work. Since then, me and that person I was dating, we did break up. So I was nude modeling through a breakup, and it was really hard, but I think it would have been so much harder if I didn't have nude modeling. Since then, I've also moved to California, and COVID has hit. I think COVID would be really hard without all my fan base. I feel so connected and so warm and welcome, and I feel like I can express myself and be myself, and that's really special. I feel like I could be myself once I became a nude model and had my fan base more than ever in my life, and I think it's because in society, the world shames our bodies. Like, as a woman, the world shames our body all the time. You have to be sexy, but only just the right amount of sexy, and be sexy for your husband. Like, you want to be sexy so you can get a husband, but like not too sexy because you can't be slutty. And you like make sure you're not a slut, but be hot. And then when you are like a little sexual in public, you get shamed. Like, oh, look at her, what, this is inappropriate. Like, the world is always policing our body. And when I finally was just naked, I was like, oh, here I am. And it's really good, and I feel comfortable and happy doing it. And then I felt like I could be really real because I wasn't pretending to like cover up and be somebody I wasn't. I just felt like I could be my authentic self, and it made me really happy. So for yourself, if you're struggling with depression or suicidal thoughts, please seek help from a professional, which I am not. So please do that first. But if you're also just trying to make yourself happier, the lesson of this for you is to find something that inspires you and makes you happy and that is for you. When I did nude modeling, it was for me. It wasn't for any of my ex-boyfriends. It wasn't just for money. It wasn't just for attention. It was for me, and it made me happy and fulfilled. And I've been doing it for years, and that's what led to this YouTube channel. And now I'm a suicide girl, and it's just really cool, and it kind of snowballed all these other things, but I did it for me and it was mine. And I think if you're trying to work through depression, find something that is yours, not something that society tells you need to do or that you try to do to impress someone or your parents or your family or try to do just for money. Try to find something that is just yours. I know a lot of people do that with exercising because it's something they can control and it feels good. I've been going to the gym for years, so I already had that, but maybe, exercising does it, maybe painting, maybe TikTok, maybe make your own YouTube channel, maybe sing. It doesn't matter, but find something that is yours and yours only and for nobody else. And I think that is what helped me, is having that, because it didn't matter what happened around me, because I had my nude modeling. And it's not always great and easy. There's been months where I've lost so many subscribers, and I'm like, why? You know, why did I lose them? I've also gained weight since I started, so I have to pose in ways that I still look elongated even though I have a little tummy. So it's not always just daisies and roses, but it's mine and I love it and I'm in control of it and it makes me feel inspired. So get something that's yours that inspires you and makes you feel happy. Now, I know when you're depressed, sometimes it's hard to even get out of bed. So I want to share with you a couple of things that I did that helped in my depression, and I still do to this day if I start getting sad. So I do not have chronic depression. It's just I have bouts of it depending on what's going on in the world. But what I learned through my big depression episode where nobody else would help me is I treated it like a cold. So say you're getting a cold, not COVID, but like a cold, and you wake up, you have a scratchy throat, or you wake up and you have a cough. What do? You're going to take some vitamins, drink some water, maybe rest a little bit more that day, because what you're trying to do is as soon as you feel the symptom come on, you're trying to stop it. And do the same thing with depression. You start getting a little sad, you're feeling a little down, go do something that is equivalent to taking vitamin C when you're sick. Maybe that's taking a bath, maybe it's watching a movie, maybe it's sitting on your bed, maybe it's listening to music, maybe it's going for a walk. But do one of those things and combat it as if it's a cold and you're trying to stop it at the beginning. And then if that doesn't work, then do something else. So say you have a cold and vitamin C didn't work, what are you going to do next? You're probably going to take NyQuil and go take a nap. So do the next thing. Maybe you're like, okay, a walk didn't help me. Be like, you know what, I'm going to go buy that dress that I wanted, you know, get a little retail therapy in and maybe perk you up, go see a friend. And that's what I do, and I basically treat it like a cold, and it helps me a lot. And sometimes it ends up turning into me just laying on my bed, sad, crying, and that's okay. But because sometimes when you're sick, you just end up in bed too. But I feel like it helps kind of nip it at the bud than letting it snowball into super severe depression. Now, these are things that just work for me. Again, they might not work for you, but if they do, try it. Let you know. I hope it does. I just want to share my experience with you. The other thing I want you to take away from this video is that nude modeling and sex work has a huge stigma attached to it. And that's really a shame, because it is work just like any other type of work. When I've done insurance in the past, I actually have nerve damage in my right arm, and my right arm hurts to this day, and when I sleep, sometimes I sleep on it weird, and that nerve damage is from sitting on a desk. So people have this huge stigma with sex work, but there's other jobs out there that are damaging to us. You know, there's people out there working, and any day they might get COVID, and you know, there's really bad repercussions of COVID. So there's people out there at gas stations risking their life working at a gas station by getting COVID, right? I worked at an insurance office. I have a damaged nerve from doing insurance. Like, sex work and nude modeling isn't any more exploitative, as that a word? I don't know. It doesn't exploit you any more than being at a gas station or at a desk. And in my opinion, because I get to do it on my time and when I want to and how I want to do it, is actually, I feel exploited less because I get to be myself. And it also is very empowering. And people always like to determine and dictate what empowers women, but each woman is empowered by something different. I'm empowered by being able to be free in who I am and own my sexuality. Some women are empowered by covering up their body and not letting anybody look at it. And that's fine too. You get to decide what makes you feel empowered. But I really challenge you to get rid of the stigma of sex work and to help fight it, because in my case, it saved my life. Thank you for watching this video. It's one of the most open, honest videos I've ever made. Normally I do like DIY or craft or behind the scenes of my photo shoots. Sometimes I talk about vegan content. But today it's just really it's my story. It's a big part of my life. I wanted to share it with you. I hope you like it. If you want to see more from me or some of the other videos I just mentioned, please like and subscribe. I am trying to grow my channel. Find me on my other platforms, and take care of yourself. Seek help if you need it, and just be authentic to who you are. Thanks.